Welcome to the Morning Slice.
Hello, dear listeners. This is Brianna McNerney speaking. I am your host of the Morning Slice podcast. And today I have somebody very special to introduce you to. His name is Eric Posa. And Eric is the president at Copeland Technology Solutions based out of Buffalo, New York. I say that he is special because he is a leader in the tech space, clearly, who also values family and empowering people who are of diverse backgrounds, like women or minorities. He's very committed to helping other people succeed. In fact, he loves having conversations about how technology can improve our daily lives. And he's just one of the kindest people I've ever met, really. Him and I met many years ago at a sales training that was very helpful. I mean, an excellent training, but very male dominated, I would say, very hustle focused. Which is, a nice compliment to my natural style. And I'm always open to learning how to do things in different ways and receive different perspectives. But I always connected with Eric when we would meet each other at these events because he just had a way about him to make people feel safe and heard. He has a strong voice of his own, but is also the first one to make space for other people. So I think what always stands out to me about somebody like that is, the integrity of it. A lot of people like to claim that they want to make space for other people, but won't necessarily put their money where their mouth is. And Eric, in my experience, is somebody who really lives the values that he talks about. So this interview was recorded 3.5 years ago. By now, you all know how ashamed I am that it's taken me this long to get these interviews out to you, but I'm confident that we'll find plenty of timeless gems. So I won't make you wait even a minute longer to enjoy this conversation with Eric Posa, and I will see you on the other side. Hey, Eric.
Hey, Brianna. How's it going?
It's going well, thank you. How are you today?
I'm keeping busy.
I really appreciate you coming and talking with me today. I know you're a very busy guy.
For sure. I love having these conversations. It's a good mix for when you're overscheduled and overtasked to have some time to spend some time in thought.
Yeah, totally. And I always enjoy our conversations, so I'm excited to let our listeners in on one of them.
Great.
And so you've been in IT for a long time, and you are the president of Copeland Technology Solutions, new president. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you also built your own document management company, DocuSyst, before becoming the president of Copeland, right?
Correct.
So I would love if you could catch the listeners up a little bit, and me. I mean, I would love to hear a little bit more about your journey in IT. Catch us up.
For sure. I mean, I can't believe it's been 21 years in the IT industry.
Wow.
Back in 2001, I graduated from college and got an internship at Copeland. So I actually started out at Copeland back when it was Copeland Data Systems.
Oh, wow.
Spent 5 years there just learning about anything technology, and then in about 2005 I started to get an itch to do something bigger, to have more of an impact. Especially at this time of my life, I was very, very driven, and just I saw the world in a specific way, and wanted to do something more. And that's very tough to kind of keep that controlled. So I went to the owners at the time and said, hey, I want to try something new. I'm going to go off on my own, and started up a document management company with no business plan. no, no idea of what that meant. I've seen it through, some members of my family that were entrepreneurial. And so kicked off that journey and spent the next, it was 9 years before I did come back to Copeland in 2014. Um, and spent those 9 years learning on the fly what it means to get something off the ground.
Yeah. It's no small feat. I can really relate to that, kind of jumping in with both feet with no idea what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, I don't know what's worse, not having an idea or having a completely inaccurate idea of what it would be. I thought I was going to be, living the high life, and meanwhile, $5,000 in income a year for 2 years later, I'm eating ramen noodles and tuna fish. It's that's it's what it is, really. It's sacrifice.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
I hear that. Entrepreneurial dreams are a lot more magnificent than what the reality is a lot of times, huh?
Absolutely. I laugh because, when I met my wife, I was driving a $300 Dodge Omni. And, meanwhile, all my friends are buying houses and cars because they got their awesome banking jobs or whatever jobs. And, you know, I'm, uh, I'm not. so, so it was interesting. And that's how I knew, it was love at first sight because, hey, I roll up in the Dodge Omni. I'm like, hey, you want to hang out? And she said, yeah. So that's how
You
you
know
know.
you got to keep her on
You
hand
gotta
when
keep
she's
her for
ready
sure.
to, ride in the Dodge Omni and eat ramen noodles with you.
Uh-huh.
That's amazing. But ultimately, you were successful in DocuSys. I imagine you ended up selling it back to Copeland, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, and it was a good match just because, when I came back to Copeland in 2014 to be part of the long-term strategy and the growth strategy there, um, part of that agreement was that any revenue generated from DocuSys would filter back in through Copeland. So bringing those two together, because I was able to eventually create a good revenue stream, was just a good fit. So eventually, the transaction happened. I moved into a different role at Copeland, and the company was absorbed, very recently.
Congratulations on that as well.
Thank you, thank you, thank
I
you.
wonder if there's anything that you learned throughout that process that anybody else who's listening who might be considering merging or selling a business might benefit from.
Oh, geez, it was. I mean, there's always a challenge there when you have individuals who started a company, over 40 years ago with Copeland, wanting to make sure you have that mutual agreement, and it's very difficult to come up with what is fair, because what's fair to one person is not always fair to another, no matter how much you think it is. So I think there's a few things I would mention is just, make sure whatever you do, it's part of your long-term goal. If I personally have a goal of retirement at 55 or financial independence at 62 or whatever my goal is, make sure that whatever that transaction is or whatever that decision is cultivating that goal. It's helping that goal move along, and it's not pulling you off your path.
Mhm.
So that's definitely a very important thing, is make sure it's right for your long-term strategy. The second thing is do it early. This was it's those are very difficult conversations to have with people because you're talking about others, um, um, succession plans, and at a certain extent, mortality of a business and an individual, and people are at their different stages of their careers, and being very understanding of that is important, and those conversations are tough. So a lot of times we will back out of having those tough conversations, and we kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
For me, I think I got to a point now where I got to a point where the conversations weren't happening. So at one point, it's like, listen, this needs to happen now before it gets too big, and too expensive for me. Um, and I basically changed it from a conversation of hey, what does everybody think we should do, to listen, these are our starting terms. take it upon yourself, put together the ideal package, blue sky it. What's if everything were perfect in the world, what would this opportunity look like on the end? And then from there you can understand all of the other members in their goals and concede where you need to concede and not concede where you won't budge. And that kind of helped it actually start to happen. So getting in early and dictating your terms was very important, and not waiting. And I think the last thing was, don't forget about the ride. I was having a conversation earlier that, we're so goal oriented and so focused on success, and we're so focused on achievement, and if you're not moving, you're dying, and all of these things. And don't forget to take a moment to reflect and to take time for yourself. Come up from air like you're scuba diving, and come up, take a breath, look at the sunshine for a little bit, and then go back down and into the muck and the tasks and things like that. Because I was so goal oriented for so many years. It's just like, I'm going to push through this. Then COVID hit. Who cares? I'm moving. It's going to happen. Hey, you want to sell your house? Yeah, let's sell the house and let's move. Is this too much? No, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And you just, sometimes you forget about the things around you, and you really got to pay attention to that and take some time to look around and enjoy the ride. Because 2 years of trying to achieve something, you can forget and miss a lot.
Totally. I'm hearing a lot of things from what you just said that I would love to touch back on. But one question that's really present for me is about putting that time into your day intentionally, that coming up for airtime, especially when we're so focused on accomplishing something. I can be
Mm-hmm.
very guilty of this as well, just kind of pushing through and trying to ignore anything that might be slowing me down.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you're finding ways to put those reflection moments into your day intentionally. Do you have any thoughts about how one makes sure that they aren't forgetting about the ride?
Well, I didn't learn about the the forgetting of the ride part until recently. I actually learned that lesson. But I think it's very important to be very self-aware and to listen to your body, to really pay attention to your trends. Everybody has triggers and things that set them down some sort of path. Understanding those and really knowing when I have a great day, at the end, recapping that, what made it so great, and try to do more of that. I mean, it sounds simple, but how often do we just, oh, I just gotta get to bed? You know,
Yeah.
I just had a great day. Well, why was it great? Man, I got up nice and early before everybody else. No one bothered me. I had some time to myself. I was able to get to work out, um, breakfast with the family, and then work. I worked on these specific things, and I really enjoyed those things, as opposed to normally when I work on these things, which isn't very fulfilling for me. So understanding what you truly enjoy and what day is your best day, and aim for that as much as possible.
Hmm. And I'm feeling compelled to tie this into what you're saying about the process of selling your company to Copeland. When we're being clear,
Mhm.
so first I'll recap. What I heard is really that we need to be clear about what we want and willing to communicate that and communicate it early. Uh, it strikes me that at least my vision of selling a company, my assumption of what that might look like, and maybe our listeners could relate, is that this is a process that tends to come to you. And
Mhm.
I'm hearing that, not really. If that's what you want, you have to be clear about it and get that ball rolling yourself, and don't
Mhm.
be afraid to do that, to put yourself out there. Um, but to tie it to what you were just saying, it seems like these listening to our body, paying attention to trends and what make us happy on a day-to-day basis, these are things that we could and maybe should, I don't love the word should, but
Mhm.
we could weave these things into our long-term goals and vision.
Yeah, absolutely. When you define that, and I'm talking writing this down, and I'm guilty of straying from the path. I mean, I'm off the rails right now just because we're in transition between houses. Um, so, you know, prior to this whole move and getting off of our normal schedule and everything, I had to do a lot of documentation, kind of write things down, brainstorm, and really spend some time focused on myself. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people think that is selfish. It's very important you carve out time every day for yourself. I need that, or else I'll wind up so tight and I'll take out emotions on others. So I think defining that, and once you get to a spot, you really know, you get in a rhythm. I know this is going to be something good, and this decision I'm going to make, you know, for example, hey, let's have a meeting. Okay, I know for me, the earlier the meetings, the better. And now I start to make decisions subconsciously on planning out my tasks and my meetings and conversations and things like that based on what's best for my day. Um, and then you start to get into that rhythm where you truly are self-aware of what you need to be successful day in and day out. And you got to stick to it.
Mm-hmm. I would love to hear, I'm throwing this in, successful, what do we need to be successful? Let's riff a bit. What does success even mean to you? Because we kind of brought this up before we pressed record, that it can
For
look different
sure.
for different people.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like I just um, I always thought success was the same for everybody. Like success is, monetary or status, which is what our culture preaches, that if you have a certain status, you're successful. And it's so different for everybody else. For me, I know success for me, long term, is just financial independence. That taking that off the table, and making sure you have that stable reoccurring revenue and things like that is very important so that I can spend time on other things. Um, the second thing for that is time with family. I read this article. Tim Ferriss recommended the tail end. It's like a short PDF. It's a way to, um, on paper, draw out all of the years of your life, and it talks about how much time you have with your children. And by the time they turn 18, roughly you've spent roughly 95% of your time that you will ever spend with your children. So it's like, for me, it's I get the work done I need to do. I have my time early in the day to work out. I have to work out. I have to be active. There has to be some sort of competition there. I've always been competitive. But then spending the time with the family and being present in what's happening. And it took me a long time to really learn that was a successful thing for me as well.
Mhm.
Carving out that time and disconnecting from that work. So, because heck, in 10, 12 years, the amount of time I'm going to spend with them is going to be drastically reduced. So I'm getting in that now. So that for me, that's what success is. And obviously, I love driving conversations. I love listening to the challenges people are having and injecting technology into solving those. I mean, that's just a passion of mine. I'm not into the nerdy stuff, getting into the details anymore. I used to be that guy. But for me, it's having conversations, facilitating conversations, and really coaching and helping people and teaching them about technology and how it can improve their business.
That's amazing. I have a question for you about that. And
Sure.
first, I want to reflect back what I'm hearing about success and something that I'm noticing. Um, you mentioned financial independence,
Hmm.
and I think that's what many people kind of default to when we think of success.
Hmm.
And you're mentioning your personal relationships thriving and spending time on those. And what's really present for me is that we don't really have to choose one or the other. Laying that path for financial success, I think a lot of people, you got two separate camps, right? There's the financial independence camp and there's the prioritize your personal relationships camp.
Hmm.
And I imagine that laying that path of financial independence actually allows you to provide the time and space for those relationships to thrive, because you
Hmm.
don't need to worry about how you're going to feed your kids
For
or
sure.
yourself. You've probably graduated from the ramen noodle diet thus far.
Yes, it's been a while.
And I just want to reflect that we can pursue a good balance of both. It doesn't need to be one or the other, and maybe these two can actually benefit each other.
Absolutely. And I think when people say financial independence, the first thing that pops to mind is, oh, they're cashing out or something like that.
Mm,
And that's not the case. The case is that, it's important to learn and talk about money and how money works. And that's not taught at an early age. You're not taught when you're 18 and 16 to start putting some money aside, or how money works, and what a true asset is, and something taking money out of your pocket versus putting money in your pocket. But it's also how you live, being frugal,
mhm,
understanding what you're truly spending money on, and are you getting the value for your dollar when you either invest or you spend, or you put that money into some sort of account or transaction. So it's important that people, it's not just about, oh, I gotta climb up that ladder, I gotta climb up that ladder. It's how can I adjust my way of thinking about money and start talking about it early and often, and learn how to make it work for me. There's the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, there's the Millionaire Next Door book. um, talks about just being a frugal person and getting away from the stereotypes we put out there of what success looks like. Once you can disconnect yourself from what people say you should be
mhm.
and what success really looks like, you can reach those goals of early retirement, or it doesn't even have to be retirement. I would love to be on the board of three other companies, help startups, invest, um, and do that stuff before 60.
Mhm.
Because that's interesting to me, that's fun for me.
Yeah, I love that. I really appreciate this piece that you just brought in. And I'll say, we've talked about the entrepreneurial journey.
Hmm.
The importance of talking and learning about money was the first thing that really smacked me in the face when I became an entrepreneur. It was like, oh, I have to make my own paycheck. How does
Hmm.
how does one do that? And the whole journey of learning about money in a
Hmm.
newer, deeper way, that
Yeah.
was huge. And I tell anybody who wants to start a business now, like, do some of that learning before you jump in with both feet. Spend some time with your relationship with money. I don't know if anybody really listens to me when I
Yeah.
say that, but that's my biggest takeaway of the entrepreneurial journey is like, hey, get your relationship with money right
Yeah.
before
And
you try to do this.
do you feel that people are just uncomfortable talking about it, or is it a true understanding of it? Because I think those are definitely two different concepts.
People are in all different places of the
Hmm.
money conversation. I So for me, I had no exposure to an entrepreneurial experience.
Hmm.
My parents, well, my dad owns his own business now, but when we
Hmm.
were growing up, that wasn't the case. And I wasn't having a lot of those conversations about money, but I think there are
Mm.
other people who might be ready to jump in with both feet if they do have that solid foundation there first. But I really, there are a lot of people that are uncomfortable talking about money. I think this is a pretty widespread thing. Have you noticed that people are uncomfortable around it?
I feel that people are uncomfortable asking to be paid fair market value for their services or their product.
Mhm,
Um, you know, you and I met in a actual sales training environment. So one of the biggest things I took away from that was, I was uncomfortable talking about money.
mhm,
I provided a great service. I truly believe we do today, and we need to be compensated for that.
mhm,
And when somebody challenges what they're going to have to pay for your services, our first inclination is to be defensive and to
mm.
be, so now we're going into conversations very guarded about money. Well, let's just not even talk about the cost of things to the end where now it's up front. Listen, if you can't pay what we deserve, we'll find you somebody else. It's not a good fit.
Totally. I think something that this is bringing up for me is that there's a lot of emotion tied to money for a lot of
Mhm.
people. So, and that there are a lot of people who are very uncomfortable feeling a wide range of emotions. So, uh, if there is scarcity in that relationship, then it can be very uncomfortable to talk about money. If you're not sure about the value you bring to the table, then it can be very uncomfortable to talk about money. And when you've gotten in right relationship with those things, it's a lot easier and it can be really fun to talk about money. I've been pretty intentional over the last couple of years of surrounding myself with people who love talking about money so that I can get used to that. And
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
say you're a sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with sort of thing. So I've
Hmm.
tapping into that. But another element of that scarcity, it related back to financial independence for me. Financial independence seems to be less of a function of how many dollars and cents do you have in your bank account and more how comfortable are you with living on what you have and not spending above your means, and uh, how comfortable are you in the emotions around money. Because I gotta say, I've realized, especially in the recent years, I've finally started to understand that you can have a certain level of financial independence with very few dollars and cents, as long as you are willing to be very intentional with the dollars and cents that you do have so that you can make them work for you and bring more money in
Hmm.
as
Yeah,
opposed to just consumerism kind of spending them out. Would you agree with that or add to
absolutely.
it? Or
No, absolutely. It's funny. As soon as let's say your yearly review comes up and hopefully you did a great job for the year, and you've got some more money coming your way, what's the first thing that most people do is they think about what they're going to do with it.
Mhm,
So the more you have, the more you spend. And I think it's very important at early ages teaching our children about money and the cost of things and what it means to spend your money or save your money, and how money works is very important. I also think that everybody should have a point in their life where they have none. For me, I learned a lot on what I'm capable of doing if I don't have any money, the sacrifices I can make and
mm,
how I can live and be very comfortable with that.
right.
My car is 2011, so it's 9 years old. Um, Paid off, nothing. It runs, works for me. It works for me. Like I drove a Dodge Omni. This is actually incredible vehicle I have today compared to what I have, right? So it's just that relationship you have in understanding money. It's very important to know how it works.
Mhm.
It's very important.
Yeah, and that security in the relationship,
Hmm.
whether you're flush or bust,
being able to find security in that relationship. It's reminding me of a romantic relationship with your partner. It's like the security can be there
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the current state of the relationship, and you need to build that security first to really continue building from that foundation.
Absolutely.
So I would love to ask, because you mentioned before that your passion is really about evaluating people's challenges and figuring out
Mm-hmm.
how IT can come in to fill the gap. I'm super interested in asking you about that, because my assumption when I think of IT, maybe other people can relate to this, is that larger businesses are the ones that need IT support, or that you need to be at a certain place in your business to really benefit from IT. I wonder if that is accurate to you as somebody who's been in that industry for a while. And I also wonder, what sorts of challenges do you see? What do you look for in businesses that let you know that IT could be opportunities for them, that they could offer a lot of opportunities for growth?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's loaded. I mean, I can talk about that all day. Um, I think most organizations kind of go through like they start off and they've got a guy or a gal. I got somebody. I got my guy. I got my gal. She's going to, I'm going to call her when I need her, and she's going to fix my computers, or he's so and so's cousin. Great guy. Really knows his stuff. And then what tends to happen is the organization hopefully starts to grow, and there starts to be a slowdown in response times, and things start to go down, and then prioritization becomes a challenge, and that person that was so reliable for some reason seems to not be as reliable in the opinion of the owners. And what happens is that many organizations, because we work mostly with the SMB market, small medium businesses, so um, what happens is nobody can really manage this department very well, because they think of it as just those nerds you put in the corner. Just take the desk, take your computer, and just don't say anything, right? You don't need to come to any meetings, just fix the stuff. So nobody can manage this individual or this department. And what they have is they have someone who's tactical, someone who's task oriented, responsive to tickets, but doesn't think big picture. So what tends to happen is they get frustrated with this individual, and this person is doing their best, but their company, their whole business is teetering on one point of failure. Now the person can't take a vacation. My favorite is when, hey, who knows the most about computers? And someone mistakenly raises their hands, like, I know computers. You're an IT person. You're doing the IT. So, which is hysterical, but this stuff happens. And so it's a very common thing. As you kick off, you don't need much. You just need the things to just work. As you start to grow, now compliance comes into question. Now you are looking at, what does downtime mean for us? And there's a strategy piece of it that companies, it's strange. I was talking to someone the other day, like, I feel like IT person's like that 12-year-old or 13-year-old kid of the family. And when you have your family gatherings, that kid's still at the kiddie table, but like they're wondering why they're not at the grown-up table. And it's like a strange situation. Like, here's the person that's extremely intelligent, knows about technology. Why aren't they being asked to the table? Why can't they sit at the grown-up table? How often do you have sales meetings? How often do you have budgeting meetings and leadership meetings and all these different meetings? And you talk about all these challenges, yet the person who can inject some technology into it is never invited to those conversations. It's interesting. Either your leadership team doesn't want to think about this type of solution for their problems, or the person can't talk about those things. They can't, some company has an IT management system or IT management company, and they have an account manager that doesn't know anything about a P&L, doesn't know anything about about sales and the sales process and compliance and revenue streams and all these different these components of a business. So they're not going to invite that account manager, but that technical person could leverage technology to improve every aspect of your business.
Mhm.
So there's a disconnect, I feel, between leadership and management and the decision makers, because they're not asking for a technology solution. They're trying to do things the same way they always have. Well, let's get a sales consultant. Well, yeah, they help, but there's still a technology piece to it that you haven't addressed.
Sure. And the words fabric of the future are really coming to mind. I see technology as the way of the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's only becoming more and more relevant. So it makes a lot of sense to me
Mm-hmm.
that you would want somebody not only to keep things running, but to be able to strategize about how can we use technology to get us further, faster towards our goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why. That seems like it would be a great person to have at the table.
Most technology individuals can't, or they just haven't been exposed to it. They're so busy fighting fires every day that they don't have an opportunity to have a mentor or go to some sort of training or have business backgrounds.
Mhm.
But it's so critical. I mean, yeah, technology, but I don't want to throw it out there like technology can fix everything. I miss my team. Like, we've been remote since March. I miss our team. I went in the office twice in like 9 months, and seeing people just is energizing. So you can't just throw technology at everything,
No.
but you need to have an organization or a person to help you leverage it when it can be used to improve a business process. If you're not looking at, hey, for example, like we've got a customer that has communication challenges, right? They have 2 offices and they both feel disconnected.
Mhm.
So having that IT person at the table, what that IT person bring? You're having a conversation. Well, so and so feels like you never communicate. Well, you're not involved on the projects. We don't do any meetings and things like that. The IT person could raise their hand and say, we could leverage Microsoft Teams or Slack or some sort of collaboration tool. Oh, well, what does that look like?
Mhm.
And now you're looking at all the solutions to solve the problem, not just the things that you've been exposed to as a business owner or a financial individual. So it's very important you get those people to the table if they're capable of communicating.
Sure. I couldn't agree with you more. That's a whole word right there, especially on the collaboration piece.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing, especially in this remote work environment, it's so easy to get in our own heads and
Mm-hmm.
feel like we need to find solutions ourselves. But so many people, myself anyway, I really thrive. I benefit from talking things through with other people who might see things differently than me. So I can only reinforce everything that you just said about how important it is to get these people at the table. And so I have, oh, what question do I have? We're talking about remote work, so let's just get into that. You mentioned that you guys transitioned to remote at the beginning of March, and it's been, I'm sure, a challenge in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
not being in the office every day. How is it going overall?
I mean, our team is amazing. So whatever challenge you toss at them, they'll take on. But I'm not gonna say everything's perfect. I mean, we have challenges. We miss everybody. We miss just having fun discussions, but we're doing the best we can. And we've actually worked on some other ways to drive that camaraderie.
Mhm.
We did some poker nights. We did a fitness challenge during the summer. Check in Everyone checks in. They have an accountability form they got to fill out. Having lunches and things like that. You do what you can.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing all right. My biggest concern is just you know small medium businesses as a whole, and the challenges they're faced today with this, and getting, I don't want to keep going back to the same point, but organizations that are agile and willing to say, hey, this is something that's going to be a norm. We have to be on board with this. The work from home, like, not only is it a great tool for recruitment and things like that, if used properly, there's lots of ways you can leverage work from home. But if you're waiting to get back to the office and the way things were, that mentality is going to set you back from your competitors. Your competitors are looking at ways, hey, how can I leverage this? Cost of brick and mortar is expensive. If I can increase my staff but have less space, I'm saving. That's an opportunity for me, as opposed to, oh man, we're forced to work from home. So these organizations that are taking advantage of the situation and they are willing to change, they're going to come out on this prepared for the future and ahead of the pack. I was laughing the other day. I was joking with somebody, like, remember when, like, the biggest thing that could happen would be like just lots of snow and that would force you to stay home. I remember being in the November storm in Western New York. I live in Hamburg and I didn't go to work for a week. That was like, oh my God, you're not in the office for a week. What's going on? Now we're talking months. So
It's a whole new world.
it's a whole new world. And if you have an organization that needs to physically be in the office for accountable for anything to work, and you're not addressing that challenge, major issues.
Yeah. You kind of blocked out there a little bit, but I think that we get the point that you're making, that we need to be willing to embrace this future of remote work as opposed to avoiding it and wanting things to go back to the way that they were. I wonder, you've been helping a lot of people to switch over to remote work. I wonder what you're noticing about companies who are navigating this successfully, and if you have any markers for success. I've already heard from you that communicating with each other is really important. Is there anything else that you're noticing about people who are doing this very well?
There's a couple things I would say. If an organization is doing more and more of it, I feel like they're succeeding. Like, if they're proactively saying, hey, let's talk about this. If an organization is asking us questions about what does it mean to us from a cybersecurity standpoint, from a productivity standpoint, if they're engaging and having those conversations, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's only the first part of it. You still have to execute on something, but at least they're trying to tackle the situation and find the best solution. I think organizations that are looking at productivity suites, whether that's Google Apps or Microsoft 365, companies that are leveraging those business applications are going to be in a better spot coming out of this. They're investing, they're attending webinars, they're educating themselves on what technologies are out there, how they work, and they're starting off small. Hey, let's get these 5 people to start using Microsoft Teams and chatting. And then, hey, let's inject this Microsoft, planner into the mix so we can keep track of our to-dos and put dates and hold people accountable. If we have an organization saying, hey, are there ways that we can track our people's behavior, or is there ways to see if we can see if someone's working? That's a problem. And it's not a problem because of this work from home push. It's a culture problem. It's a management problem. That means you don't have the ability to say, hey, I know when you're working. I know when you're producing. You know, I don't have to watch you. Okay. When we left in March, we were very clear. We just said, everybody, we are going to work remotely. Obviously, we have to and we can. This is what we expect. We expect you to log on at your normal times and log off at your normal times. We expect you to communicate with everybody and have face-to-face meetings virtually. And to communicate, and every week we're going to check in with you, make sure you're okay personally and business wise. We started pushing more one-to-ones, but we told everybody we are going to be a beacon of positivity during this. We are going to help companies that aren't as lucky to have a bunch of nerds on staff, right? I mean, it's very helpful to have geeks on staff because they know this stuff. So we are going to help those companies. And we kind of explained our mission through this time. Organizations that don't have a strong way to measure their success of their teams and don't have great clarity in their communication are going to struggle through this, and they have to address that.
I just adore everything that you're saying. And it brings to mind, heard stories of people who are really struggling with the work from home because they work in a company that has a toxic culture around this, that they need to be working every second. They have to have a video camera on them.
Yeah, exactly.
They're working insane hours.
Yeah. And usually that comes from the leadership not feeling uncomfortable, and they can't be held accountable to work from home. So they assume that that's just the way it is for the rest of their team. So man, I know if I'm home, I'm distracted. So for sure, my team is distracted. I need to take precautions. And I see that. I mean, there's that piece of it, and then there's also just the generational communication piece of it. You know, I'm a big proponent of arguing, oh, these millennials. I mean, I'm almost a millennial. I'm like a zennial or whatever they're called. Who even knows what we are anymore, right? All I know is I was born in 1979, and I have a tight connection with the way of doing things in the past and in the future. And I've sat at tables where we have the younger generations and the older generations, and the older generations are complaining that they're lazy, and the younger generations are like, why would I want to work more instead of work smarter? Like it's just, there's just a back and forth. And so you've got, you know, I don't trust them to work from home. And then I have these millennials that everyone keeps just pounding on that I can't trust, when in all reality, it's leadership. They want you need to understand your audience. You know, you have your seasoned veterans that work hard, they work all the time, work is their life, they identify with their position, they identify with their work. And you have this newer generation that identifies with social media sometimes, or they want to have purpose. They want to understand what their piece contributes to the big picture. And if you're not communicating that to them, they're like, well, I don't even know why I'm here. So I'm just going to move on. So it's you've got the trust factors, but it all stems from leadership. It all stems from your management staff, your leadership, and how they're truly engaged with their staff.
I love that you're bringing the millennial conversation up. This is one that we've had several times.
I can't stand when people fall back on the younger generation is lazy. The younger generation, it's like, you know how many times people have said something about the previous generation? It's happened probably for 50 generations. Like the problem, like, stop pointing fingers and start pointing thumbs. You know, how can I improve my way of understanding that other generation and how they communicate? How is it that I can have a conversation and understand with a group of kids in high school, and I'm 20 plus years removed from high school? It's because I listened to them. I actually did a like a career day thing at my old high school, Cardinal O'Hara. And I talked about this specific thing. I was blown away by the students and their intelligence. I actually said this. I said, okay, everybody, you know, there's a disconnect between, you know, the old people, or, you know, the older generations, and you guys. Let's talk about it. What do they think of you? And their hands went up. Oh, we're lazy. Oh, all we want is money. Oh, you know, all these different things. And I said, well, tell me about you. What are you really? They're like, we just want to know why we're doing it. Like, I want to be part of something special. And here are these 14, 15 year olds. They get it. And just no one has asked them what they want. They think that they should take the path of, you climb up the ladder, and that those days are so far behind. I can't even stand it. Like, it's frustrating to me.
Those days are gone.
Those days are over.
I was just talking with my mom about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, the days, there's this idea that, you know, you're going to go work for an organization and they're going to take care of you.
And you retire there 20 years later, and you're going to get a plaque and a watch.
And
or
it's
something.
just not the way that it goes anymore.
But here's the thing. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, we have to do it. I'm not expecting the person we just hired this past year to be here for 20 years. Just acknowledge that things are different and accept it. I mean, it's kind of like it's like an overall umbrella as to, like, just our society as a whole. I mean, all the stuff that's going on with the elections and all that stuff, like it's okay that things have changed. People are spending so much time trying to fix the past, which can't be fixed, instead of being present and thinking about the future and things they can affect. It's just, you know, oh, and I did it. Well, I have this conversation all the time with people that, you know, when I grew up, I worked hard in this. Everybody works differently. And as soon as you can accept that the way that you do things may work for you, we talked about success earlier. It's successful for you, but it's not successful for somebody else.
Yeah.
I was laughing. I'm like, I literally sat in a room, and I was right in the middle, and I looked at one side was a bunch of 20-year-olds who were just getting into it. They're joining this the session, and then some experienced gentlemen on the left-hand side. The right side's got cool hair and cool socks, and the left-hand side's wearing blazers, and, you know, just the perfect stereotype. And I'm just listening to these people go back and forth, and I'm just like, no one's willing to listen to that other side and meet them on their turf. When did that happen? When did that happen?
Gosh, I wish I could tell you, because we need to meet in the middle ground on so many more topics.
Yeah.
A lot more than we do.
What's wrong with actually not meeting halfway and just going all the way to their side?
Right?
It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a failure. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you're empathetic. You're understanding. You're listening. And
yeah.
Holy smokes, we need more of that today, don't you think?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I do think.
Yeah. I wasn't always like that, by the way. I mean, not to preach like I'm the savior of understanding. It took a long time for me, and a lot of self-reflection, to realize that I don't listen to people. And as soon as someone has the ability to admit that they're not good at something, and improve upon something, then that can change you. So I'm part of a Vistage peer mentorship group. And we had a speaker come in, and they introduced us to the predictive index, which it's kind of like DISC, Myers-Briggs, and things like that. And we go through these exercises, and you learn about yourself. And what I learned, and I'll be completely honest with you, is that I like my ideas. I like coming up with my own ideas. I like talking about my ideas. Then I like to change my ideas. And then I make mistakes and everything because I don't pay attention to details. So that was my assessment, right? And that's a good fit for a specific role. What I learned from that is, listen, if you want to be a better leader and a better person, you need to work on that listening skills. You need to start shutting up at the conversation, and being very cognizant of not going first and listening. And what I found was, I started hearing amazing ideas. And now I don't have to talk all the time. Now I can just ask a couple questions and sit back and just listen and write notes and learn. Um, and I missed that for a very, very large part of my early career. I was just, hey, this is the way it is. It's ones and zeros. There's no other way. And there's many other ways.
Yeah, I imagine that that only served to give you better ideas and to
Mhm.
give you even more support with the execution. That is what you really need support with.
Oh, I need that help a lot. If I'm, let's put it this way, I'm the sales and business development person. If I'm involved in the onboarding process, there's a problem. It's going to get delayed. It's not going to be done right. And I know that, and I even say that to my staff.
Mhm.
They ask me questions when we're onboarding someone. I'm like, guys, if you need my help right now, that's a problem. And they laugh about it. They're like, Eric, you keep saying that you're bad at this stuff. I'm like, I am. It's not a good fit for me. I understand that.
Mhm.
That's why you guys are here, because you're good at that. So, um, so it's just, man, self-reflection and self-improvement is so critical in this time. So critical. Everybody has room to improve, and it's like we've forgotten that we can improve ourselves.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be a show of weakness to admit that there are things that you can improve on.
Absolutely. That's a very powerful statement. It's not weak to be vulnerable.
No.
It's not weak to show something you're not good at. You can't be good at everything. There's no such thing. We tell our children that. Not everybody's good at everything. Well, why can't you accept that as an adult? It's
Yeah.
because you feel that you have to project and be portrayed as someone who has no weakness. I got plenty of weaknesses. Are you kidding me? Like I have so much to work on.
Yeah.
It's accept it.
Yeah.
Accept it. It makes you a better person.
Oh my gosh, acceptance is such a great topic. You're touching on
Mhm.
something that's so important here. It's so big and so important that apparently my mind is having trouble wrapping right around it. But projection, it's so I'm there are three words that I'm wanting to address. There's projection, there's
Mhm.
acceptance, and there's insecurities. I feel like these things have woven through our whole conversation. And I'll just say projection was one of the first personal development tools that really made like a noticeable, profound difference in my life when I realized that genuinely every single thought that comes out of my brain needs to be checked for projection because we are all projecting all of the time. And when we can realize that, it's such a powerful tool for self-reflection to kind of
Yeah.
address that, what's insecurities are we projecting out onto other people? What insecurities are driving the ship about what car we need to drive, about what ideas we need to be bringing to the table and how we need to be approaching our job. When we can be self-aware of that, it changes the game.
That's what a fantastic thing you just said. Um, it's like not word for word, but it's exactly. We had a guest speaker at one of our sessions, and the gentleman talked about your true reality, your true world of what's really happening, personal honesty. Okay. For example, you may have had a difficult childhood coming up, and had a bad relationship or lost a father or mother early on. That may drive you to shy away from relationships because you have that pain and that fear of getting close. You may lose somebody. And what you said there is just like, having that awareness of listen, I have a weakness there. I have to address that. Can
Mhm,
improve your life substantially and relate and can help your life cultivate and grow.
mhm. Instead of getting stuck playing out the same old painful things that you're trying to avoid.
Yeah. This is why I like having conversations with you, is because, believe it or not, like 5 or 6 years ago, if someone were to say, how are you feeling? I'd be like, I'm fine. Leave me alone. What are you talking about? Right. Like if I can just picture myself on a couch talking to someone who does this for a living, and they're like, well, dig deeper. I'm like, I don't feel like it. Like it, I'm a, I'm a man, and I got a posture here. Like I got to be tough and everything. And, um, and the one person that just cracked that for me was my wife. I mean, she is the ultimate understanding, empathetic, and compassionate person. With my children, this is the way it is. She helped me learn that, listen, it's okay to give hugs every now and then, as opposed to say walk it off. You gotta pick your spots. And that's kind of have an understanding of yourself, and improve upon that will help cultivate a lot more out of your life.
Yeah. I would love to hear a little bit more about
Well,
how
you
your
had
wife.
before. Well, I'll get into that, but before you had two more things. You had the
Okay,
projection.
yeah, yeah.
So let's get. I don't want to lose track of that, because I was totally engulfed in
You're
what you're going to say,
enthralled. I
and
love
then
it.
I had to go and ruin it by speaking. So
Oh my goodness,
continue
you
on.
built on it.
Yeah.
Well, so acceptance is one of the words. And I just have to say, for me personally, if I'm ever going through anything that's difficult, it's like if I'm approaching anything in my life, acceptance is the first concept I look to see what needs to be accepted right now.
Hmm.
What am I fighting against? Just the sheer existence of, because when I'm focused on fighting against what is, it makes me way less effective. It takes up so much energy
Oh
to
yeah,
fight against
absolutely,
what is.
absolutely.
So I need to accept. I'm a person, a proponent of radical acceptance. I need to accept
Hmm.
everything about myself. I need to accept everything about everybody else
Hmm.
and every situation in the world exactly as it is right now. Because if I'm too focused on resisting that, if I'm not willing to just accept what is, I waste all my time spinning my wheels wanting it to be different instead of being open enough, accepting enough to look at it exactly as it is and figure out what I can do
Hmm.
to maybe change it if I want to
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah. How are you know there are going to be things in your life that you just have to accept, or else what's the one prayer, give me the strength to change the things I can. you know oh gosh, well, I wish I knew where for. I should just Google that really quick. I'm a computer guy. The understanding to not get worked up about the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. I can't. I just read that the other day, but you have to, and, and that's one of the things I've always. What is it called?
I think it's called the Serenity
The
Prayer.
Serenity Prayer.
I am
Yes.
actually cross stitching. I cross stitch as a hobby. I'm officially 90 years old, but I'm cross stitching with that very saying on it. I've been working
Yeah.
on it for 6 years. I think
Yeah.
it's
For sure. But I was never that person. It's like, this is the way it is. And if you don't believe what I believe, I'm going to fix that. And who am I to fix? Who am I? Like, who am I? I'm a nobody. I'm one of billions of people. Why? And my opinion and my thoughts are more important than yours.
yeah.
Like, and so there's things you accept, but then there's also how you respond to those. You can respond to those. Someone can say, oh, that's just the way it is, and accept it, but be totally put off by it.
Mhm.
Oh, so you want this? I guess, well, you're that kind of person. And there's, where instead all it takes is, I've never walked in your shoes before. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Mhm.
I'm going to try and understand your point of view so I can respond better in the rest of my life. Now, there's things I won't tolerate, And that's where your values come in. Those are your core values, or your someone great way of using words. Your core four. Like, what are your core four? I never really wrote down my values and really had them like solid. I just kind of know what they are. But your values is where you, well, okay, well, this is where I draw the line, but you can still be respectful.
Oh yeah.
You can still be understanding.
Boundaries are good. Just
Mhm.
because you don't have, just because you're trying to accept things for the way that they are, doesn't mean that you have to just become this like person who takes everything and becomes a doormat and doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
You know, acceptance for me, it frees up the energy to change it if it makes sense to change
Yeah.
it. If once I accept it, I still want to change it, even though it's such a tricky thing, because true acceptance comes with zero need to change something. It's like
Yeah.
you
I,
can't really accept something if you
yeah. You can,
accept
and you can't change other people. You can only change yourself.
yeah.
You can help someone improve and grow and learn. You cannot change them. They have to make that decision. I don't think people can grasp that. Like, what do you mean you can't just start doing it this way? Well, it's they have to make the choice.
Hmm. Well, and our psyches are very fragile. And
Mm-hmm.
it's coming to mind those three words, the way that they seem to be tying together for me, at least in this conversation, is
Well, the
that a
third
lot
one. Wait, the third one. We forgot the third one.
is insecurities.
Insecurity. Thank you.
So let's bring it in that a lot of times when we have trouble accepting something, it's a result of our own projections and insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that we see happening in ourselves and someone else in the world that we feel like that is intolerable, we are it pokes at our insecurity in such a way that we feel like we need to change it to be secure.
I
So
never thought of it that way.
it's almost like
Mm-hmm.
acceptance requires the becoming secure with the way it is, you know, so that you can just have the energy that you're not resisting these things inside of yourself and you're not wasting energy that way. Simply, like it can just be that simple. I don't want to waste energy denying the way things are anymore.
Yeah, I like that. I it's funny. I just think to myself, I'm like, I cannot believe I'm having this type of a conversation, as I've never been I've never been that person to talk feelings.
Mhm.
You know, I grew up in athletics and sports. Um, and you know that if you're weak, you get looked down upon. If you are emotional and things like that, you get looked down upon. And I think we just drive that stuff deeper and deeper, and it festers and it creates more challenges later on. So now having these conversations are just, it's just, at least talking about it makes me have a greater understanding of something higher and something bigger than the way I think of it.
Mhm.
And like, I never thought like I'd be jogging listening to Brene Brown, and she's talking, she talked about shame and how everybody, how are you feeling? When's the last time you said, wait, so how you doing? I'm fantastic. I'm well rested. And then someone said, wow, I'm really happy for you. Usually the response is, whoa, who's this person? You want to be part of like the I'm struggling club, right? like with like a mascot and everything. So it's, I never thought I'd be actually like listening to those and really getting deep into that. And I think it's, again, once you start shutting up and listening to other people, you just learn.
Mhm.
You just learn so much more.
Yeah. Well, and even listening to yourself. You know, it takes so much energy to keep strong emotions like that down. And
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned in our very first, sentence perhaps of this conversation that you had that entrepreneurial bug. that you wanted to do something of purpose, and it was really hard to control that. It was really hard to keep it down. It's like
Mhm.
that's the way it takes so much energy. For me, I've just come to realize that it is more of a weakness than a strength to think you need to keep everything inside, because it makes us so much less effective.
Mhm.
um
Yeah, that's a very powerful statement. I mentioned you earlier that we had a problem in our problem, like a challenge, with our move and stuff like that, and we had to put our dog down recently, and the way it happened, I'm not going to get into the details there, but I just wasn't very proud of it, like just how things have gone over the past couple of years leading up to this moment. And I was in a group of my peers last week, and it was the first time I've ever, in front of other people, just said, I am very ashamed with how that happened. And my goal is by the end of the year to forgive myself for letting my dog down. And that really helped to say it out loud. And for me, again, like I've said, like I want to be the strongest, the best, the fastest, all that stuff has always been engraved in my head. But acknowledging that emotion, I feel better. I
I
can still be ashamed of how everything happened, or very disappointed in myself, but I'm not beating myself down on it. I feel like it kind of lessened the blow a little bit. And now I'm on a path to, you know, um, just getting better.
Yeah. I'm so sorry about your dog.
Yeah, I didn't realize, like I said earlier, I didn't realize how much I love that damn thing. Do you have time for a quick story about
Yeah.
it? So, so I back in 2000 and I think 9, I went down to South Carolina to for a business deal. Someone had a very large organization down there. They were very paper intensive, so they're like, "Hey, come down. Let's try and pitch this person and get some business out of it." So I stay with them. So they're in um, this little neighborhood, really nice houses in South Carolina. Beautiful place. I love South Carolina. And I go for a jog in the morning, like 6:30, and I hear something running. And I look behind me, and here's this Doberman Pit Rottweiler dog, black, big teeth, running at me. I realized it was a puppy at the time. It was like it had to have been at least 50 pounds. So running at me. So I just turn, I keep looking for it. I'm like, hey, run faster. And hopefully you can keep up the pace, right? For a little bit longer. So just run faster. So I don't hear anything anymore. And I look down, and she's just running right next to me, like looking up, hey, how you doing? Just running with me. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. So I pet her and stuff like that. And then the next morning, I I open the door to go for a run, and she's sitting on the porch of that house, waiting for me.
Oh my God.
So every morning for that week, we go around that lap, and she runs with me. So I'm like, great. Now I got to take you home. It's
Right.
like I
That's
can't
your dog.
not ignore that. I mean, there's like, it's very clear you like hanging out with me. So yeah, so my wife and I flew down like a month later, drove back with her, and we had her for 12 years.
Oh my goodness. Was she just like a stray in the neighborhood?
So the neighborhood near us was near a military base, and a lot of times what will happen is someone will get deployed or something will happen. They may drop an animal in like a certain neighborhood, hoping that somebody takes the animal in. We did check to see if someone owned it. We put ads in the paper and things like that, just to make sure. We checked with all the local vets and stuff like that to see if anything matched that description. But no, then the funny thing is we came back, and then she was like 20 pounds heavier. I'm like, oh my God, you're bigger.
Oh
My
yeah.
wife's like, that's not a puppy. Like that's a dog. That's a 70-pound dog. She was 70 pounds of just like pure muscle, like just solid dog. Um, that just would lick you to death. So yeah, that's our story of how we ended up with her.
What a story.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful story.
yeah, for sure.
May she rest in peace.
Oh, for sure. I think about her every day. It's only been a week, but that's sad.
I'm sure that that will continue for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah, for sure.
Losing a pet is really hard.
Yeah. I think the challenge was that, it's the dog, it's a dog, it's a dog. Hey, she may have hurt her knee. If she needs surgery, it's me $6,000. I'm like, that's a dog. Like, I have 3 kids, college is coming up. You know, luckily, it wasn't something that needed to be done. We were just talking out possibilities, but for so many years, I'm just like, she's a dog. I didn't realize that every day before we had the kids, we went rollerblading. She would run for miles. We would play. We'd sit on the porch. We'd just look out into the streets, and we just sit there together. So I kind of like, I just compartmentalized all that like fun stuff, and that was kind of like locked away. And then when that happened, it's just like, wow,
It all came out.
floodgates, Niagara Falls.
Yeah. Dogs, man.
Dogs, bro, dogs.
We just don't deserve them. I gotta say, like, there's nothing we could do ever to deserve the pure love of a dog. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
just, and I just can't say enough how sorry I am. I have
yeah.
got an 11-month-old puppy here kicking around somewhere, and
But it speaks to the point earlier I made about being so driven and so career driven, and so focused on that success that, I left her behind. Like, it was that's why I was so upset and I felt so bad, is that, her anxiety and destructive behavior and stuff came back because I lost sight of her, because I didn't come up for air to say, hey, you look like you're trending in the old direction. We need to focus on this. And I didn't make it a priority, and I failed her. I feel really bad about that. I feel very ashamed. Even though she was a dog, um, you know, she deserved more from me. So I got till the end of the year to forgive myself for that one, for failing.
well, just let me know if you need an extension on your deadline.
Exactly.
Oh
We'll see. We'll see.
my
Moving
goodness.
on. Wah, wah.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, how do we move on from that? Where's my next
Talk
one?
about happy stuff is what we talk about.
Well, I think that there is something to be said for just witnessing the fact that there's shame involved right
Hmm.
now and that it's painful and it's okay. And it might be painful for a little while. And I'm here for you.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know what else to say other than I'm going to be really thinking about you. And I'm glad that on her way out, she left you with some really valuable lessons
Oh yeah,
that
for
are
sure.
already impacting you. And I'm really glad that you had her there. I assume as you were building business and, maybe she was next to you guys as you were eating some ramen noodles. I'm not sure where the ramen noodles came
we
in
were a
that
little
were
bit around
before
that one.
or
We actually had our own
after.
house at that point. But no, it's an important lesson. It's an important lesson that, because I mean, whether it's a dog or a child, think of all the situations you hear of somebody saying like, man, the time just flew by. The time flew by. The tail end, that it's just a short depiction of saying, I've got 20 more Super Bowls left with so and so, or I've got, just putting it in perspective. And how many people say, man, I wish I had more time with that person. Well, the time you did have, you weren't present.
Right.
And I mean, even with Jamie, even with my wife, like how many nights I worked, and didn't spend that time. I wasn't disconnected spending with her. I lost that time. That time is important. That time, your time is important. And as soon as you stop thinking your time is not as important as getting something else done, you need to check yourself and reflect. Your
Mhm.
time is your most important asset. It is worth more than you can imagine. People say to me all the time, why don't you fix this yourself? You just fix it yourself. I'm like, I'm going to take my time and apply it to something that's much more important. We're not the cleanest of people. I'll put it out there. I could live in ruin. And people have said all the time, why is your house so dirty? It's like, what am I going to do? Tell my kids who are outside playing in the sun, I can't play with them because I got to do the dishes and clean up. Come on. Like, they're going to hate me in 2 years. Like, they're going to want to talk to me in 2 years. So it's a dirty dish. Like, is it going to really, it's in my house. It's not, I didn't leave the dishes at someone else's house. It's my house. Like,
You have no idea how validating that is.
Mhm.
Coming from somebody who it drives me crazy a little bit. I perpetually have a sink full of dirty dishes. It feels like I can't get the dishwasher emptied and it filled in the amount in a life
Exactly.
cycle that allows me to enjoy a clean kitchen for more than 30 minutes probably.
For sure.
But, would I rather be so wrapped up in having a perfectly clean house that I don't get to go outside and run around with my dog, that I don't get to decompress with my loved one at the end of the day, and does it take over sometimes? Sometimes it does make it a little harder, and I guess there's a balance piece there. We have to provide enough space for ourselves that we have the energy, the bandwidth to do that. But I couldn't agree with you more. Priorities.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to just let the dishes be in the sink.
Yeah. But you can't prioritize, and you can't put a plan in place without having your goals. I had a conversation with someone a few weeks ago, and like, you can't, like, everyone wants to talk about what you're supposed to be doing. You should do this, you should do this. Well, how do you know if you should do that? Does that align with what you're trying to achieve in life? Like, is that something that's going to add value to your strategy? And if not, why, how do you know if you don't define it? You've got to define it. And I struggle with that big time. Like, for me, getting something written down, tracking, and holding myself accountable is tough, just because I think I don't have the time to do that. So you at least have to, like, set up some goalposts, right? Set up some curbs and stay between the curbs. Keep yourself honest and at least going in the right direction. And they can change, but you got to have a target. You have to start with the end in mind here, or else you don't know if the decisions you're making are ultimately going to take you there.
Sure. I have a question coming up about this. I wonder how you determine that you're in between the lines here. So, like, maybe you can shed a little light on what your process is. I think there's two pieces to the question. How do you quantify that end goal? What does that look like for you? And how do you determine if something is getting you closer or farther away to that?
I'm just going to write those down so I don't forget what you just asked.
I can probably remind you, but I don't have them written down because we're going off the script on this one.
You're like, I kind of do this for a living. I can remind you, pal. So the first thing I want to just say is that there is no end, and people have to understand. I mean, there is an end. That's the final end, right? But there is no true end, because once you achieve something, you set another thing. So I think what we fail at as a society, as humans, is that we say, once I get to here, I'll be set. Once I get to this level, I'll be fine. For me, once I get to 190 pounds, which I haven't seen since 11th grade, I'm set. I'm right where I want to be. Well, I hit that, and guess what? I went back up to 200. So if we think of everything as once you achieve it, you're done, that mentality will get us right back into our old swing of things. So we have to really make sure we don't think of it as once we accomplish something, we're done. So back to your original, how do you know if you're staying between the curves? On the business side, you always have just indicators. You define your success. What is success for Copeland Technology Solutions? Success for Copeland Technology Solutions are retention of customers. We are showing our existing customer values, show them value, and they feel that value and they understand that value. Number two, are we establishing ourselves as thought leaders and teaching people about technology and how it improves business? And then third is, every day that we spend at work, are we improving someone else's life? Are we helping them? Are we serving our community? So if we're doing those three things, we're successful. The money will take care of itself, and we're not really that big on it. It's important, but it doesn't drive our conversations. It doesn't drive our strategies. We make sure it's there because we got to pay people, but and on the family side of it, I'm going to have to say, I don't know. I'm going to go on a limb here. I haven't figured that out yet. There's a vulnerability, right? I'm being completely honest.
It.
I'm not making up some BS. I haven't figured that part. I haven't figured that part out yet. I'm not doing the best job I can. Trying to figure out if I'm doing a good job or not. I think if there's a line of communication open with your family members, that's important. I think if you're able to define your true family values is important, what we stand for, and we live by that. And I think making sure that you understand what makes everybody happy is extremely important in your family. Because what makes my son happy compared to what my two daughters are happy are completely different things. And what Jamie needs to be happy, and so truly understanding your audience in your family, what makes each one happy, and staying true to working with each one of those things. I think I don't know how to measure it yet, but that's the goal. I guess how many fights do we have every? I think self-reflecting, if you're not living in resentment and you're not holding on to some there's forgiveness there and there's understanding there, I think you're doing a good job. Yeah. I think we got that. I think we got that pretty good.
I have a feeling you're doing a lot better than you give yourself credit for in that realm.
Thank you. It's good when you're locked up for the to work from home and stuff. It's sometimes you don't have someone see into what you're doing. I appreciate that.
Oh my goodness, and I think everybody can relate to struggling a little bit with that right now. We're all right on top of each other a lot more than we've ever been before, and I think that in itself has opened a lot of people's eyes to where the holes are, especially in those home relationships, especially in the personal life. When you're living out in the world and you're going out to the office every day and you can go run your errands freely and go out to dinner and go networking.
Doing errands is so important compared to what it used to be. Like, remember when we used to be like, oh, errands.
I know.
Now we're like,
oh, I'm going to the grocery store.
I need some errands. Where's the list?
Get me out of this house. Yeah.
I gotta get out of here.
Oh my goodness.
Hysterical.
Well, and I also wanted to just touch briefly on acceptance again, because I really liked what you said, that we don't reach the end, until we get to that final end. That's part of acceptance for me, is that, the goalpost moves. Once you get there, it moves, and you're always going to be pursuing that goalpost until the end. And there needs to be ways to enjoy yourself along the way. Absolutely. To really nourish what you need along the way, or else you get there and it's like, well.
I've talked to many people, and I'm sorry for cutting you off there.
No, you're fine.
I've talked to many people that once I get to this organization to this amount or this value, I'm going to sell it. It's like, well, what is your goal? Is it do you really want to work that much longer? Do you really want to, does it have to be that? Like, why does it have to be that? Well, because of taxes and stuff. Well, what is your strategy for your exit? You know, do you have to really do that? And why would we want to sacrifice so much of our time now and not live now when you're healthy and you have your greatest chance of being healthy? It's to your point, like you got to enjoy the ride a little bit here. It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole lockdown COVID thing definitely hopefully it gave people a lot of time to self-reflect. It definitely did it for us. I didn't get it completely right on the self-reflection, but we definitely have more of a plan. I mean, I think it's an unfortunate realignment.
Is it unfortunate?
It's just unfortunate in the way it has to happen. But just like my mom used to tell me when I used to step out of line. Listen, Eric, you would be a great kid, and then you need a monthly adjustment. And she'd smack the crap out of me, or I get like a spoon thrown at me, or she'd give me a "What are you even thinking?" And then I'd bounce right back up, and now I'm the best kid on the block. And then just decline. I think as a society, I just wish it could have been a different way, but because it is tragic. But yeah, this is a realignment.
We're all getting knocked over the head a little bit with this.
Yeah, we're all getting thumped a little bit like a whack-a-mole game.
I know I am.
Join the club.
Yeah. Well, and so I think this leads really well. I'm like desperately trying to fit in all of these amazing questions I have for you because I think we're coming up to the end of our time, but I think there are a couple more really important things I want to touch on. One is it feels related to this kind of thumping ourselves over the head. We've briefly mentioned that your wife has had a huge impact on
Great
waking you
segue.
up. Yeah, waking you up to the fact that you might need to listen more to other people, change the way that you approach your kids. Sometimes I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about how in the heck did she wake you up to this? Because I know, especially in the context of COVID and all the racial unrest, the social unrest that's going on these days, I have heard so many people talk about how they are just not comfortable. They're not having these conversations at home that they need to be having to open the lines of communication and move everybody forward. There's so much we don't always know how to approach the people closest to us when it comes to requesting change or adjustment from them, and I really wonder what she was able to do that was so effective in helping you see some areas that could maybe use some growth.
Yeah, so she's amazing. She's like people would laugh like funny story. So we did this predictive index assessment, which basically charts out your behavior. It's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's just this is kind of who you are. It's like the Myers-Briggs disc, all that stuff. So I did it, and I thought it'd be great to say, Jamie, would you like to do it? Right? So she did it. And it has a great tool where it can take two people and tell you how well they work together and the challenges they're going to have. And the funniest thing it came up with was, and it was a great just summary of everything was, one of the challenges is that Eric may dominate the conversation and Jamie may seek ways to exit the conversation because she's not being listened to or something like that, just because of his personality. And I look at her and I said, is that true? And she just went, yeah. Didn't you know that? So, I mean, that kind of just like summarize, that's like the whole self-awareness thing. But I think I don't know what it was. Like I said earlier, like I've been so focused on achievement and things like that. And then I started asking her questions. And until I started shutting up and listening, I didn't realize how incredibly intelligent she is. Not just spelling in her vocabulary, which puts me to shame, but and her handwriting, but the way she can truly empathize with everybody and understand, and how that makes the conversation go so much differently than when I have that conversation and I'm just barking orders or I'm dominating the conversation. So I started to talk with her about just challenges, whether they be at work or in life or whatever. And it just, over time, I started to just be quiet more, and it just helped me understand more. And I feel like the conversations are about difficult topics, but they're great conversations. And I have tough conversations all the time at work, so this is important. Um, so I can sit down with somebody and I can understand that they're going through something personally that's affecting their behavior, their mood, their performance, and I can relate to that, and I can listen to that. And once I got a taste of that, and seeing the results of that, I just kept wanting more. So she just, I don't know what it was. She just, as soon as I stopped talking and I shut up and I listened to her, I learned so much from her. I just, and the kids helped. Seeing her being a mother is just, I'm in awe. I don't know anyone who does it better. Um, you know, where I would, my son falls and hurts himself. The old me would have been like, walk it off. Let's go. Come on, stop crying or whatever. And she helped me understand, like, listen, help the child acknowledge their feelings, give them a hug. It's okay to give them a hug and say, hey, you'll be okay. The delivery of things is just as important as the actual words you're saying.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure so many people can benefit from hearing that. I can't help but wonder if there's any wisdom you would impart to your younger self, maybe 20 years younger.
Oh, geez. Hmm. Just one is what you're looking for?
Oh my gosh, I'm sure there's so much, but maybe it would help to know what inspires me to ask. I It's like I hear in my mind the resistance to opening up those lines of conversation, the
Mhm.
resistance to even taking something like a predictive index assessment to help you communicate better with your loved ones, as opposed to just even applying it to a business environment. I
Mhm.
think it's really easy for people to dismiss and shut down and just kind of keep their nose on the path of what they're trying to accomplish. And I wonder if you had your 20 years younger self sitting in front of you, and maybe you were looking to get an extra 5 years in of this nice open
Mhm.
listening conversation, because it sounds like you noticed how much more effective it made you, and that's what you really kind of sunk your teeth into and were like, okay, give me more of this. I wonder how you might impart that to younger you to inspire him. Is that even possible, or
I
is
would
it the process?
Yeah, at first I would say put down the beer, 'cause, fun, and
Yeah.
put down the cookies or the candy, get healthy. Just good habits on the eating side, because I'm addicted to sugar. I can't, you know, argue that. I would just tell myself, pardon my French, just to shut the F up. Just shut up. Stop talking. You're filling important dead space that you could be learning with your words. And whether it was coaching hockey or in business, or chitty chat around the cooler at the office, whatever, just be quiet and take it in. You don't have to respond. You can just say, hey, you said it. That would have helped me be a stronger leader today, um, because now I'm seeing that I can help somebody grow as a professional, as a person, as a father, a brother, whatever it is, sister, mother. I can help them grow by just facilitating them coming up with their own answers instead of telling them what it should be. So instead of me just saying, this is the way, helping them get to their own way. And you can't do that if you're yippee yapping so much.
Unfortunately, it's true.
I just have this image of going back in time and just slapping myself across the face and saying, shut up, dummy. Like, just get out of the way, pal. Like, just be quiet.
So it seems like the answer is simple enough as whomp yourself over the head.
Yeah. Yeah. And you, like I tell myself, you'd be surprised. This conversation is going to go a lot better with you shutting up than it is without you talking. So you just let it go. Like it's the quality, I guess, determine the quality of the conversation based on the conversation, not your participation in the conversation.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the reason the conversation was amazing. You don't, if that conversation was amazing and you only said 9 words, that doesn't mean it was wasted time. It was good time.
Yeah. I love that. And it's a perfect segue because one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about was about this concept of having an on-ramp and an off-ramp
Mm-hmm.
to the day. The last time we spoke, we talked about different ways that we're all managing this work from home thing. And you mentioned something that you had been trying with your family was about discussing having an on-ramp to the day and an off-ramp. And I wonder if you can share a little bit more about that, how it's going, and what that looks like for you.
Well, it's ever changing, that's for sure. Like I mentioned earlier, I was in a great groove, us and the family, all the way up until we moved out and then moved in with our in-laws while our house is being worked on. But it's one thing that this whole lockdown work from home mandate has brought to us is that there's no, it's you start work right away and you end work and you move on right away. There's no drive time into the office to prepare for the day. There's no decompression time to prepare you for that transition to your personal life. So I literally wake up, trying to do my part to maybe help a little bit to get the kids going, but usually I end up just making it worse. And then I start my day like, bam, get online and start working. And then I'm offline 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I go right into the, hey, how's your day? Oh my gosh, so and so, and right into the family. No decompression time. So what was working for us up until our little up and move was that just making sure that every morning I'm spending time on myself. My wife has time to spend with herself doing what we feel we need to do every morning. The kids have some time to wake up, be together. There are going to be days they're going to have to watch a little bit of TV. Like it's just the way it is, right? But really having more of intentional morning as opposed to what this morning is going to have for us, we don't know. That routine is crazy important for 90% of it. Have the ability to kind of, be a little loose every now and then. And then the same thing at night, making sure that you're disconnecting from work, you're coming down from work, and you're moving into that family time. Because you can't just go from one to the other. It's like my brain can't do it. Then when I'm having that conversation with somebody, I'm still thinking about that meeting I just had or that decision I made today. There's no disconnect, and that's very important to stay present with your family.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's having that routine is very important, but being able to do something on a whim For example, before we moved, every morning I was getting up at 5:30, out the door, jogging and all that stuff. One morning it was beautiful outside, but raining. So it was great sunrise and raining. And um, I come around and the kids are outside playing in the rain. Okay. That's not part of our morning ritual. I could have been like, okay, guys, come on, let's go. No, I just stay outside and play in the rain for a while. So don't miss an opportunity to do something different. That's fun.
Yeah. That's the true life stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's stuff that they'll remember. They're not going to remember, the fact that we started on time that day or not. They're going to remember that, daddy's doing cartwheels in the rain. Like what is this madness?
Sure. What I'm hearing from you about this is that it's important to be both intentional about creating these transition times in your day, setting yourself up for the day you want to have, and disconnecting so that you can be more present,
Mm-hmm.
but also being very flexible about what that might look like on a day-to-day basis,
Mm-hmm.
so that it's not becoming like rigid and prescriptive.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're just constantly blindly moving from schedule to schedule to schedule, you're going to miss out on something random, and that random thing could be one of the most amazing experiences in your life.
Sure. And it's my mind started wondering what else we can possibly apply it to, because I shared before we pressed record today, part of why I was so eager to bring up the on-ramp, off-ramp conversations. I've heard it in a few different contexts since you brought it up to me. And
Mm-hmm.
one was, and I think it relates to what we were just talking about, really, about changing perspectives, right? Changing the way that we've been approaching life. So like the predictive index assessment kind of served as your off ramp from the life of, not listening to
Mm-hmm.
other people in the conversation, to like, oh, maybe there's some value here. I wonder if there are any other ways we can apply this. There was, and I'll just say quickly, the racist views was
Mm-hmm.
another context that I heard this brought up in, that uh so many times we want somebody to just jump from full speed on one highway to the other, or from going full speed in one direction to full speed in the opposite direction, and we really need to give people opportunities to take an off ramp and turn back around, to change their direction, as opposed to doing something so abrupt. Have you applied this in any other areas of your life? What do you think of all that?
I think well, to the predictive index thing, it was funny having a computer tell you about yourself, and having it be spot on. It's a little eye opening. Like, whoops, that's weird. But it definitely took a long time to be aware and implement change. I think that concept can possibly help in a conversation. So let's say, you brought up the racism thing, which everyone's so afraid to talk about, because it's such a hard thing to talk about for people.
Mhm.
Someone says something and you immediately identify that and you label them as this, right?
Mhm.
Without asking follow-up questions. Why is that important to you? Help me understand that. Can you give me an example? And instead of jumping from one extreme to the extreme response, you bring it from a greater understanding, and now you're having a dialogue, as opposed to just um, every person tell me their extreme boundary. Do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to explain, but So
No.
let's say we're talking about race, and someone says, I don't feel it's, I don't feel it's kind to put the police in this position that they're in. And then someone will come back, well, then you must be racist. And then the conversation ends. Instead of saying, well, okay, you mentioned the police, help me understand what you mean by that and articulate that and listen. Now you saw the extreme, or you see their statement, but you need to hear their supporting comments. Then your response may not be up where they started in just a general statement or response. Now you're getting into a dialogue and from a place of understanding. You may not agree at all, which is, it's okay. When did it not be okay to not agree with people? It's okay. Like I could have a conversation with someone who hates what I love. All right. I understand why, because I asked you. So I think getting off the on-ramp, you have this highway going 70, asking some follow-up questions and getting some more detail take you off that highway and back onto another conversation instead of just trying to jump from highway to highway.
Yeah. I love that.
That's one thing that we're missing, is asking those follow-up questions to truly understand why it's important to that person. You may be just making a comment without even understanding what they're even talking. Like how many people, like with Colin Kaepernick, I on Facebook and on social media, how many times did I see the conversation, well, he's disregarding our soldiers, and then you got someone else saying, well, that's not why he's doing it. It doesn't matter why he's doing it. Well, like if you don't know the reason behind it and you don't understand what he's truly doing, like how can you make a comment? Yeah, I understand it. It hits you hard, especially, when we have service people in our family, and heaven forbid someone, has given their life. That drives up emotions, but you have to understand what that other person is coming from and the true reason behind what they're doing. I laugh. I don't laugh. It just boggles my mind that we want people to leverage a platform to make a difference, but then when they make a difference that doesn't align what we have to say, they need to shut up. Like, well, how are we ever going to succeed as a society?
Mhm.
If we don't leverage a platform we have to try and make change and truly affect as many people as we can positively.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's reminding me of the millennial conversation versus the how did you put it? The experience.
Experienced individual, yes.
I really
I'm getting there. I'm becoming that experienced individual. So I'm using specific terms. I don't want to be the old guy.
Who does, right?
I'm
I
getting
like
there.
the way of, instead of saying those damn boomers,
Yeah,
we'll just
I'm a
call them-
tweener.
yeah, like the experienced generation.
Yeah.
You know,
Just think of that generation though. Just think of the amazing things that they've seen and done and grown in this country, and their hard work has laid the foundation for so much. And then being someone who doesn't want to understand that this is the way it used to be. Like you used to identify yourself with your success in business, or your job or your status was crazy important when you talk to people. The pain that a salesperson going on the road away from their family, the sacrifice and all of that. If you don't understand that from a millennial standpoint or a younger generation standpoint, I can quickly have a meeting with you in 2 seconds. What do you mean you traveled all over the world? You have to get deeper into that conversation.
yeah, I'm hearing from you that curiosity and asking questions is the ultimate on-ramp, off-ramp.
Yeah. That's a great term. Curiosity. Like I wouldn't give to spend a couple hours with like my grandparents to talk about their experience in the military and growing up. I remember he used to tell me all the time, like I used to work in mines. He used to work in a mine, and he used to roll up pasta and bread and butter and fry it and take them. Like I just want to know more. Like seek to understand and to learn
Mhm.
about everybody else's perspective.
Yeah,
You'll become a better person.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And unfriend people on Facebook.
I know. Oh my gosh, what a world we're living
Have you
in.
ever have you looked back at like your posts from like 2000 whatever and have you seen like the change and the growth up until now? Because I see it for me like I posted that 10 years ago. Oh, what an idiot.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think I was definitely guilty of using Facebook as my diary sometimes with
Mm-hmm.
my posts, and I mean, no one could out angst me for a very long
No
time.
way.
No one could out angst me. I was the angstiest of angsty.
I just use it for entertainment now. I mean, not to poke jokes at how difficult it is now to communicate with people, but I'll just hop on a thread and just be like, just follow me for entertainment. Oh, this is funny to you. I'm like, yep. Like I cannot believe that you people are sitting there going back and forth. This is hysterical. Like, holy smokes.
Well, and it's what always strikes me when I actually take the time to get curious, to
Hmm.
open my mind up, to ask the questions instead of just approaching a statement with my statement,
Hmm.
is that we so often agree on what is important,
Yeah.
and we just have a different way of getting there.
Oh, that's a very, very good way of putting it. How many times have you heard we're saying the same thing? Why are we arguing? Like, we're just saying the same thing.
Yeah. Have you been a fly on the wall of my home?
Yeah,
That's
like how many
been-
people have you met that truly want people to be impoverished and people to be persecuted, and like no one's ever said I want that. Like it's just this whole world of once you say one trigger statement, your identity is immediately classified like as a you want everyone you want socialism. That's not even what I said. You're just like but those that's the problem with today. We can't, that curiosity is there. Oh, you said that, help me understand more about it.
yeah. What's behind that? You know,
Some are we the challenge is when you do ask that, do they actually have any substance, or are they just bleh? So
you
hopefully they have substance behind that.
been a frustrating element, I think, for many, especially there. If you're listening to this, my guess is that you're a pretty intelligent person who is very curious and enjoys having conversations
Mhm.
like these. And that has been a frustrating thing for me when it's impossible to get to the meat because it's just not there. And, uh, painful spiky walls come up instead.
Mhm.
It's not nice to bring your vulnerability and openness to a spiky wall. And um I really believe that we'll all be able to move forward together if we're just kind of persistent about it.
Yeah, what I tell people when I see someone getting worked up, you know, listen, what's happening at the top there is 15 or 20% of what truly affects your life. I mean, maybe at the most 20%. You have 80% control over what you can do and your contribution to the immediate people you come into contact every day. You can change other people's lives for the better. You can show your children how to change other people's lives for the better. And that's how our country is going to improve, not by finding the mysterious man somewhere or woman that's going to be at the top in our politics. It starts with the population.
Mhm.
And that's the problem, is we're waiting for the person to show us the way. You show the way.
Mhm.
You take it upon yourself to make a difference. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
you have to get into politics, but every day you can spread some kindness. Every day you can. I coached youth sports, Every year we had 20 kids on the team. That's 20 kids, 20 sets of parents, 20 siblings. Thousands of people I come into contact every single year new. And if you can show them what you feel is a truly positive way of living and they take that on, that's how you spread change, not some guy barking on TV at what needs to happen.
Yeah. You brought the word kindness in, and that was one that was on my mind too, that kindness can be a great on-ramp, off-ramp.
Yeah.
You know, we're living in a world where we don't see it every day. And the story that comes to mind was a Facebook conversation. I haven't been able to restrain myself from engaging in some Facebook conversations, and the one memory that's coming to mind is I pointed out something that I saw that wasn't sitting right.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a comment back from somebody I've never met before that called me an idiot. They said, "You're an idiot. You have to go back to high school," or something like that. And trust and believe that there were many responses that flooded through my mind.
Yes.
Prior to a response of kindness, but that's the one that I opt for because it just offers that on-ramp, off-ramp. Even if you just insulted me, I'm sorry for whatever is going on in your day that feels like the thing to say, and I hope tomorrow is better for you. you know it's it's not revolution can happen in simple acts of really genuinely trying to make other people's days better.
Yeah. And many of those individuals determine their self-worth based on response on social media. If someone clicks like, that tells me I'm worth something. If someone hearts it on there, I'm really great.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, and it's a challenge we got to overcome. We can do it, but again, it starts with show someone the way.
Yeah.
Showing how to truly, if someone's expressing their feelings, and this happened actually when this all started going down. Someone I know that's close to me posted about Black Lives Matter, right? And then someone gets on there with statistics. When you talk about it, when you think about blah, 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 you don't know what you're talking about. Instead of me coming back with, "Hey, so and so, you don't know what you're talking about. How dare you?" Blah blah blah. It's the post is, let's use the name Ralph for whatever reason. Ralph. I don't know why I picked that name.
Whatever.
Ralph. It's okay to disagree. It is not okay to put somebody down for expressing a concern and wanting to inflict change, positive change. If you know somebody that is just bashing so and so up and down, you can come back with that. That this person is posting something positive and they're trying to spread awareness for something they believe in. Don't ever get in the way of that. You have no right.
Yeah.
They're trying to do something positive. Don't ruin it. You just ruined it. And kudos to the person. They said, they apologized, said sorry. I'm just very, so they were very, it was a good quote unquote conversation on Facebook, but there has to be some respect out there that someone's doing this out of the goodness of their heart, and they want the world to be better. Let's give them an opportunity to tell us how to make it better.
Yeah. And I gotta say, Eric, that is one of, if not the main reason that I cherish our friendship so much, is because you, whether or not you started at being an amazing advocate and ally, I've witnessed you be that, an ally, an advocate for me, for others. And I just appreciate that about you so much. It's clear that you make it a priority to lift people up and give voices a platform. And the story you just shared highlights that for me. And we're coming to the end of our time. I have a zillion more questions that I would love to ask you. So I am already looking forward to having you back on the podcast. I
Oh,
hope
great.
that you'll come back sometime. And
Absolutely.
before I let you off the hook,
Uh-oh.
I would love to play a little game.
Okay.
It's, maybe a game, more of a sequence of rapid fire questions.
Oh boy.
In a world where we're clearly encouraging everybody to go deeper with each other, and now that we've already had that whole conversation, now let's take it up to the weather talk, the small talk questions.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
So I would love to know, what's your morning beverage?
Black coffee.
Cheers.
Just one.
Mm.
One tall one. I don't know if that means small or if that means large. I don't know.
Are we talking a
All I know is
Starbucks tall or?
yeah, exactly. From a ruler standpoint, it's as long as a ruler is possible.
Nice. Got it. So how about your happy hour beverage?
God, that has changed over the year. I'm not gonna lie. I've gotten it more into wine. Not because of anything else except that it was a healthier substitute for going through different diets and health health plans that are no longer in play. So I like that, but I also like sharing it with my wife. We can both have the same drink, and it's easier to shop for. So I would say like a drier red wine.
Dry red wine.
Yeah.
I dig it.
I am 41 going on 70.
Hey, you're saying this to the lady who cross stitches for a hobby, okay?
Hey, I'm not drinking Zima, so I'm good. And for all those who don't know Zima, back in the day, you got in trouble if you cracked open a couple of those ones.
And the only people drinking Zima were well underage, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah. It was like when Schnapps came out and Tequila Rose came out. Like you didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah. I love it.
Red wine.
So how about a podcast that you're listening to?
So I always listen to How I Built This with Guy Raz.
Great one.
Tim Ferriss is huge. I've read all of his books. And listen to some of his podcasts. I like listening to elite performers, how just thinking higher level, and a lot of people don't realize, like, when you get to that level, that while you may think of them as some stupid actor or some stupid actress, they're extremely intelligent people. They're very intelligent people, and they think at a different level than a lot of people. So I like just listening to those types of conversations. The one I just signed up for, that I'm actually looking up right now on my phone, is Work Life with Adam Grant. I haven't dived into that one yet, but I'm going to get into that one. He had a good example of that was on memorization. So it was a good tangible 30 minutes of just how to improve your memory. So I would love to do one that's like sci-fi or something, not work self-improvement related. I gotta get back to some of them.
Yeah.
Very focused on self-improvement and business improvement, that I just gotta get lost in something.
Yeah, I hope that you will bring some more of those enjoyable things back in. I've been reading a little bit more fiction lately for that exact same reason.
I can't deal with the actual reality around me. I need to get out.
Yeah. Well, and I'm like, okay, reading, I hear that reading can be a leisure time hobby. So why don't I try and bring some of that in instead of just constantly reading about work? That would be good. Speaking of which, is there a book that you recommend? We've talked about a lot so far, but what are you reading?
So I've never been a big reader. I've never. I may have like undiagnosed ADD or something. I just reading for me is just such a challenge. I listen to audibles often. I did kind of read Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. That was the most recent one. I listen to a lot. And for me, um, let me pull these up. So I have some things I'm listening to in my library. It's so amazing I can't remember anything. So one of the great ones that I listened to was The Decision by Kevin Hart. We've talked about that before, just because it's just a funny way, and his ideas on just being positive are fantastic, and it's just a great relatable way to learn some stuff. The Power of Vulnerability was a great one by Brene Brown. That was a good one. Helped me to kind of understand that it's okay to be vulnerable, and it actually helps drive better conversations. One of my favorite books is The Four Agreements. Very short, to the point, and I think that really kind of kickstarted the self-improvement component of my life a while back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, impeccable with your word, always giving your best, don't take things personally, never make assumptions. Those four things, if you can do those on a daily basis, your life is really in a good place. From a science fiction standpoint, my favorite audible on science fiction was We Are Legion, We Are Bob. It's called the Bobiverse trilogy. Talks about um, colonizing deep space, using 3D printers. I can't remember the actual terminology, it's been so long, but using like a Vulcan probe, I think it was. So basically you send a capsule out into the space that has a 3D printer. You harvest the elements around you in the universe, and you build more vessels, and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going. It's an amazing sci-fi trilogy. The performer is one of my favorites, Dennis Taylor. He does all the voices and all that. That was one that I really, it's 8 hours of my life just committed to. So, I don't know if I cut
Sounds
somebody
like
off
you
on the
read
freeway while I was listening to it, but I really enjoyed it for sure.
Sounds like you read a lot, even if it's audibles.
Yeah, I listen a lot. Not lately, just because I haven't been driving much. I kind of
Yeah,
miss that.
sure. Well, I'll skip to the next
Yeah,
rapid
so
fire
much
question.
for rapid.
Rapid fire, right? It's okay. I like hearing what you have to say. Are you listening to any music lately?
To be honest, I am. I have changed my Pandora station recently. It was something that was kind of recommended by one of my coworkers. Not really recommended on purpose, but um, let me pull up the name of the station. I got two stations. I went whenever I want to get back to like the old days and be really um, nostalgic and really get into it. I go back to like my hip hop 90s hip hop station just to like bounce a little bit. But Joyner Lucas is a rapper,
Mm,
and that station for Pandora is great to work out to.
mhm.
Obviously, it's you know not very kind words, but it gets me going. I
Nice.
listen to Static X radio while I'm working out, just kind of like the constant boom, 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 boom gets me going.
Hmm.
And then there's times I listen to Simon and Garfunkel radio, or I listen to The Hip is my favorite group. Um,
The Tragically Hip?
yeah, the Tragically Hip.
Really? Are you from Canada?
Yeah,
Are you really?
it's kind of like a hockey thing. Like
I
a lot of
didn't
hockey.
know that about you.
Yeah, I played hockey growing up. Went to Canisius College for baseball, but I lived with a bunch of hockey players.
Mhm.
Um, and I actually walked down for a little bit just as a backup player, but I still enjoyed it. But living with 6 Canadians, you learn about the hip, and that was my introduction into them. The lyrics are incredible. You know, Gord's gone, but his lyrics that he put on this earth are fantastic. And you know, everyone always says the music of today, blah blah blah, but there's definitely a lot of the lyrics of today are more surface level.
Yeah.
You know, between them, like Pearl Jam and, you know, some other groups, I feel like there's just the use of language in a song can be so much more.
Sure. Thank you for sharing. And so 2 more.
Okay.
Do you have an alter ego?
Do I have an alter ego?
And I can offer more context if you'd like.
Please do.
So I've noticed that a lot of successful people, they have like almost a confidence persona that they step into. Like Beyonce has Sasha Fierce, and what are some other examples of this? They're blanking out of my mind, but basically the construction of an alter ego that you can kind of step into when you're in the public eye, or even if you're just approaching a certain kind of situation that you need a little extra oomph for. And if you don't, that's fine too. But I'm just curious.
I was just gonna say I don't. You get what you pay for with me. I'm very transparent to a fault. I'll say what's on my mind. I won't. If I don't, it's just wasting time. And I don't want to give anyone the ability to assume something that isn't accurate.
Yeah.
I want to be clear with my feelings and how I am. I wish I had an alter ego. That sounds like something I should look at.
Well, maybe next time you come on, you'll be
Yeah.
able to share with us about the alter ego that you've created.
Maybe I can utilize something like that to get more out of what I'm trying to accomplish.
I would be happy to talk more about that with you offline, because I've given
Yeah,
quite a
absolutely.
bit of thought to the topic. And
If
finally,
anything, it may be it may be cross stitch Charlie or something, and maybe I kind of just chill out, like chill Charlie or something, like chill out, dude.
I love that. It's kind of like a flip on the whole concept.
Yeah,
You know,
like
you need the alter ego to, take your off ramp to the end of the day,
I was
basically.
just gonna say that it was used, like, you know, some people need to get pumped up, jacked up, and then be something bigger than they are. I need to be smaller. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm this huge, you know, presence or anything, but I need to go down a notch.
Mm.
So chill Charlie may be the direction I go.
I really look forward to hearing how that exploration turns
I'm
out
gonna
for
write that one down as a takeaway.
you. Yeah, I'm glad that you have one.
Chill
And
Charlie.
chill Charlie. I can't wait to meet him.
Me too.
And finally, I wonder if you have words to live by.
Hmm. Gosh, there's so many. Um, you know, we were kind of talking about like the generation gap earlier, and you know, just inability to communicate with previous generations when I was younger. So my father started business, and it's taught me a lot in the professional world. So one thing he's said that always stuck with me is, if you lay down with dogs, you wake up with fleas.
Mm,
And it was important for him, because of his experiences, to let me know that the people that you associate with and the people that you trust are extremely important. Like you said earlier, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? So who you get into business with, and it's not just from a negative standpoint, like their integrity issues. It's just, even when we bring on a new customer, we don't bring on a customer if they're not a good fit. If they don't align with us, we will not bring them on board, regardless of the amount of money they have, because they can do so much negative, they can have a negative impact on our organization and our people if that's who they are. If we're not aligned, it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. So that that phrase, I love it because it's just make sure you're aware of your decision. If you're going to go do something, make sure you know that that is a good thing and it aligns with your values.
Yeah.
You're going to wake up itching like crazy.
That's a beautiful saying. I really appreciate you. Is
Yeah.
beautiful the right word for it? I don't know. It's useful as I'll get out
It's
though.
let's put it this way. It's a card in the deck you can pull a lot, or that you don't want to put back in the deck.
Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you spending all of this time with us today. And I genuinely look forward to our next conversation. It's always great spending time with you.
Great. Thank you for having me. This was fun. I really enjoyed the time flew. I mean, you're looking at over 2 hours of just
Outro.
but this these kinds of things are important for people to do. I mean, your day to day can be just so repetitive, and you need to start talking and thinking about stuff outside of your wheelhouse, or you won't grow as a person.
I totally agree. And if anybody would like to connect with you and continue the conversation, is there a way that they can do that?
For sure. Obviously, you can find us online, our company, copelandts.com.
Mhm.
And my email is up there, so you can drop me an email. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm always interested in two things. Number one, having conversations where we can improve the community, improve a business. I'm always up for. And then secondly, any sort of opportunities to mentor and teach or have somebody work with our staff to learn. Having an internship is the best education I've ever had. It was great to go to school, but until you understand how a business actually works and how money works and things like that, you know, you're kind of shielded from a lot. So anytime someone's looking for an opportunity to learn through us, or if I can facilitate that, I will.
That's amazing. I really appreciate you offering that to this community.
Mhm.
And again, I can't say enough. I can't wait to have you back on in the future.
Great. I wish you the best, and I look forward to talking to you again. I truly enjoyed these few hours.
Me too. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.
There you have it, folks. My conversation with Eric Posa. How incredible was that? And can we please just have a moment of celebration that this is finally out to you after 3.5 years of me sitting on it? I cannot begin to express how relieved I am that you finally have this meeting your ears, along with Hillary's interview that I released a few weeks ago. And it's just so interesting and surreal to think back on that time. You know, we were in the thick of COVID quarantines and life as we knew it just being turned on its head. And I find it so interesting to look back on conversations like our conversation about remote work and how that is still unfolding now, several years later, as organizations vary on whether or not they've embraced remote work as a new, benefit for employees, a rule of thumb, or if they're trying to pull people back to the office. But I think we can all agree that, the experiences that we had during COVID really did. They changed everything for our society, and people don't want to go back to the way that things were before. I know for myself, as a mom of a small child, it is hard for me to think about working in any role that would require me to be in an office 8:30 to 5. How do we do daycare drop off? How much time do we lose with our kids when we do that? And even taking care of our pets. I think people are starting to realize that life is so much more than where you go to work every day. And yes, work is important and it offers us so much fulfillment and purpose in our lives, but so do kids and family and creativity, and those are important too. And I think that we're learning to value those more and more after we had that time of COVID quarantine. I would love to hear what you notice about these trends now, 3.5 years later. And I hope that we can have Eric back to hear what he has noticed, because I'm sure that there is so much more that he has learned and noticed about remote work trends that, I have no idea what he thinks about that now, because it's been a while since we caught up. But I also was really struck listening back about Eric's grasp of learning how to listen and his admittance that it didn't start out that way, that he didn't always listen to other people, and that he really had to apply himself to learn about how to listen to other people, both close to him and in general. And wouldn't the world be such a better place if we all could learn to meet each other on their terms, on their turf, as he said? I got all jazzed up listening to that part of our conversation. And since Eric was so good about being vulnerable, I'll also admit that I was super cringing at one of the questions that I asked him about what his wife did to get him to change in that respect. And listening back, I was just struck by how much that reflected on where I was in my own personal life at the time. I had somebody who I was really craving to listen to me more and didn't know how to make that happen. But at the end of the day, what I really took from listening to Eric talk about this is that, yes, having and choosing the right partner is so, so important, but we have to be in charge of our own desire to change. I mean, he was so driven towards learning and self-improvement that was really the most influential thing that helped him to change, as far as I can tell. It wasn't some magical thing that his wife twisted his arm into it. It was that he wanted to become a better person. He was open to receiving feedback, and he did that, and he learned and grew. And I am just so honored to be able to share this conversation with you. I would love to hear what you think. Leave me a comment. You can email me anytime, info@briannamcnerney.com. Make sure to go connect with Eric on LinkedIn. I know that he is just a wealth of information, and he truly loves to mentor people. So if that's something that calls to you, make sure to connect with him. If you are just looking for more, make sure to listen to past episodes. There's a lot to dig through. I would love it if you could follow along wherever you listen to podcasts, because there's more to come. And I will see you next time on The Morning Slice.